Lila Harrison walked through the empty office floor, her heels clicking loudly against the polished tiles. The building was quiet now after hours, and the usual hustle of employees was gone. Most people assumed her life was perfect. She was the daughter of the city's richest CEO, always dressed in expensive clothes, always smiling for the cameras. But behind her sparkling eyes there was a storm she couldn't escape. Tonight that storm felt heavier than ever. Lila's hands trembled and her chest felt tight, as if the walls themselves were closing in on her. She had spent years trying to hide her fear, her anxiety, the endless pressure to be perfect. But tonight hiding wasn't enough. Tonight she needed someone real, someone who wouldn't judge her. Her eyes fell on the janitor's closet at the far end of the hallway. She hesitated. She had seen him before, Marcus. A tall, quiet man with dark skin and strong hands moving silently through the office, unnoticed by everyone. He was a janitor, and to most people that meant he didn't matter. But to Lila he seemed different, calm, honest, real. She took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Marcus looked up from his mop, surprise flickering across his face. He was in the middle of cleaning the floor, but he didn't seem annoyed. Most people ignored him, avoided him, or looked down on him. But Lila was different. Marcus, she whispered, her voice shaky. He froze, his eyes locking on hers. She felt a strange mix of fear and relief. No one else could understand her, but maybe he could. I need your help, she admitted, her hands clutching the strap of her bag so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Please don't tell anyone. You're the only person I trust. Marcus didn't speak. He set down his mop carefully and wiped his hands on a rag. His calm presence filled the small closet. He didn't ask why. He didn't judge. He just waited for her to continue. I can't do this anymore, Lila whispered, tears threatening to fall. Everyone thinks I have it all. Wealth, family, friends, but they don't see me. They don't see what I'm going through. I feel trapped, Marcus. Trapped in a world where I have to be perfect, where I have to smile, where I have to pretend I'm happy, when I'm not. Marcus nodded slowly, listening. He didn't offer advice, didn't tell her to calm down. He just let her speak, letting her release the weight she had carried for so long. And for the first time in months, Lila felt a strange sense of relief, like someone finally understood her without asking for anything in return. Her voice shook as she continued. I've tried talking to friends, to my father, but they don't get it. They see me as their daughter, their little princess, their perfect little world. They don't see me, and I don't know how to fix it. I feel invisible even in my own life. Marcus stepped closer, his presence gentle but strong. You're not invisible to me, he said softly. His voice was steady, warm. It's okay to ask for help. You don't have to carry it alone. Lila blinked, surprised by his words. Nobody had ever said that to her with such sincerity. Not her friends, not her family. Marcus didn't care about her wealth, her title, or her reputation. He cared about her as a human being. And for the first time in her life, Lila felt seen. A small, fragile hope stirred inside her chest. Maybe she didn't have to fight alone anymore. Maybe someone like Marcus could help her find a way out of the darkness she had been trapped in. And maybe, just maybe, she could find herself again. The office lights flickered softly as Lila sank onto the small bench inside the janitor's closet. Her shoulders trembled and she hugged her knees close to her chest. Marcus stood quietly nearby, leaning against the wall, listening. There was no judgment in his eyes, only patience and understanding. For Lila, that was a rare comfort, a safe place where she could finally let her walls come down. I don't know how to explain it, she whispered, her voice breaking. I've been holding this inside for so long, pretending everything is fine. Everyone sees me as happy, as perfect, as someone who has it all. But it's all fake. I feel like I'm drowning, Marcus. I wake up every day, put on this mask, and just survive. Marcus nodded silently, waiting for her to continue. He didn't push, didn't interrupt. His presence was like a quiet anchor in the middle of her storm. I tried talking to my friends, she continued, but they don't really listen. They tell me to cheer up or relax. My father, he expects me to be strong, to be perfect, to carry the family name like it's a badge. But inside, I'm broken. I'm scared all the time. Sometimes I feel like I'm not even allowed to be human. Tears slid down Lila's cheeks and she wiped them away quickly, embarrassed. I thought I could handle it alone, but I can't. I've tried. I really have. But the pressure, the fear, the loneliness, it's too much, and now I don't know what to do. Marcus moved a step closer, his eyes kind. You're stronger than you think, he said softly. It takes courage to admit what you're feeling. Most people hide it their entire lives. You came here. You asked for help. That's bravery, Lila. That's real strength. She looked at him surprised. Nobody had ever called her brave, not her father, not her teachers, not her friends. She felt a lump in her throat. I don't feel strong, she admitted. I feel weak, helpless, like I'm failing everyone. Especially myself. Marcus shook his head gently. Feeling weak doesn't mean you are weak. Feeling scared doesn't mean you are failing. It means you are human. And being human means you can ask for help, lean on others, and find the strength inside yourself you didn't know was there. For the first time, Lila felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she wasn't completely alone. Maybe someone could help her find her way out of this darkness. She took a shaky breath and whispered, I just want to feel like I'm enough. Like I matter. Like someone sees me for who I really am, not for what I am supposed to be. Marcus gave a small, encouraging smile. You do matter, Lila. You matter more than you know. And I see you. Not the image, not the title, not the wealth. You. The real you. Her tears fell freely now, and she let them. She hadn't cried like this in years. Not like this, without fear of judgment or criticism. She felt lighter somehow, as if a heavy weight had begun to lift from her chest. I've never had anyone listen to me like this, she admitted, her voice trembling but softer now. I've been invisible even in my own life. And you see me. You really see me. Marcus nodded. And that's all I can do, listen. Help you find your own strength. The rest, that's up to you. Lila closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. For the first time in months, maybe years, she felt a tiny spark of courage. She didn't have all the answers, but she had someone who believed in her, and sometimes that was enough to start the journey back to herself. And in that quiet janitor's closet, surrounded by the faint smell of cleaning solution and the soft hum of fluorescent lights, a CEO's daughter began to release the storm she had carried silently for so long, and for the first time, she felt hope. Over the next few days, Lila returned to the janitor's closet whenever she could. The office, empty after hours, became her refuge, a secret place where she could breathe without the suffocating pressure of her world. Marcus was always there, quietly waiting, a steady presence she could rely on. Each time she arrived, she felt a mix of fear and relief. Fear, because this was a part of her life that no one else could see. Relief, because Marcus didn't judge her, didn't demand anything, didn't treat her like a wealthy child with problems too trivial to matter. He listened. He understood, and that alone felt like magic. I feel like I'm losing myself, Lila said one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. I smile, I laugh, I go to parties. But inside I feel empty. I don't even know who I am anymore. I'm afraid I'll never be happy, Marcus. I'm afraid I'll always be trapped in this golden cage. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. It's not the cage that traps you. It's the fear that keeps you from opening the door. You have to face it, Lila. One step at a time. You don't need to do it alone, but you need to decide you want to step out. Lila looked at him, her eyes wide. Step out? I don't even know where to start. I've spent so long pretending, hiding. I'm scared. What if I fail? Then you fail, Marcus said calmly. But failing doesn't mean the end. It's just part of learning, part of growing. You won't be alone in it. I'll help you see what you're capable of. But the first step has to be yours. For the first time, Lila thought about courage not as a thing she had to summon magically, but as something small, small acts, small steps. Small decisions that could change her life. Maybe courage wasn't about being perfect. Maybe it was about simply trying even when the fear was loud. I want to try, she said, her voice shaking. I don't want to be scared anymore. I want to find myself again, but I don't know if I can. Marcus smiled gently. You already are trying, Lila, and trying is the bravest thing anyone can do. Let's start small. Tonight, just be honest with yourself. Feel your fear, but don't let it control you. Tomorrow we take another step. Over the next week, Marcus guided her quietly, teaching her lessons not with words about business or wealth, but with wisdom about life, courage, and humanity. He told her stories of his own struggles, the times he had felt small and invisible, and how he survived through kindness, patience, and determination. You think I'm just a janitor, he said one night, smiling faintly. But I've faced battles you wouldn't believe. I've been told I wasn't enough, I wasn't strong enough. But I am, and so are you. You just need to see it for yourself. Lila listened, her heart opening a little more with each story. She realized that strength wasn't about money or status. Strength was about surviving, about caring, about standing up for yourself even when the world doubted you. Marcus wasn't just teaching her courage. He was showing her what it looked like in action. By the end of the week, Lila felt a shift inside her. The fear was still there, whispering doubts, but the spark of hope was brighter now. She had a plan, not a perfect plan, but a plan. She would face her anxieties one small step at a time, with Marcus by her side as her guide, her anchor, her friend. And in that quiet office after hours, under the hum of fluorescent lights and the scent of cleaning supplies, a CEO's daughter and a janitor made an unlikely pact. They would face the storm together, and in doing so, they would discover that courage and kindness were more powerful than wealth, more powerful than fear, and more powerful than anyone had ever imagined. Lila left that night with a new sense of purpose. She didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but she knew one thing. She was no longer alone. The office was unusually quiet that night, the hum of the air conditioning the only sound. Lila had just finished talking with Marcus, her heart feeling lighter but still pounding in her chest. She was beginning to understand herself, to face the fear that had haunted her for years, but she didn't know that the storm she had been avoiding was about to come crashing down. Her father, Gregory Harrison, the powerful CEO whose name alone commanded respect, had discovered her secret visits to Marcus. Anger had already built inside him, and now he stormed through the office floor, his polished shoes clicking angrily against the tiles. He found her in the janitor's closet, sitting on the small bench, eyes red from tears. Marcus was there, calm as ever, standing by the mop bucket, silently observing. Gregory's face turned red with fury. "What is going on here?" he barked, his voice echoing in the empty room. "Why are you here with him? What are you doing with the janitor, Lila?" Lila's chest tightened. Her father's tone carried both disbelief and disgust, and her first instinct was to shrink back, to apologize, to hide. But something inside her had changed. The courage she had been finding with Marcus refused to let her bow down now. I'm asking for help," Lila said, her voice trembling but firm. "Help, Dad. Not for business, not for money, not for appearances, but for me. For who I am inside. I've been struggling and I don't know how to handle it alone. Marcus, he listens, he understands, and he helps me." Gregory's face twisted with confusion and anger. "Help? You mean from a janitor? You expect him to fix your problems? You're my daughter. You have everything." "No," Lila shouted, her voice breaking through the tension. "No, Dad. I don't have everything. I have wealth, I have titles, I have parties, smiles, pictures. But none of that makes me happy. None of that sees me. Marcus sees me. He treats me like a person, not a project, not a trophy." Marcus said nothing. He didn't step forward or defend himself. His calm presence alone gave Lila the strength to stand tall. She realized that she didn't need anyone to validate her feelings, not even her father. "You've spent your whole life trying to be perfect for everyone else," Marcus said quietly, his voice steady, carrying weight without anger. but no one can carry that for you. You have to face it yourself, and it's okay to ask for help. You are not weak for needing someone to listen. Lila turned toward Marcus, gratefulness shining through her tears. I had no idea what real courage was until now. You taught me that I can be brave even when I'm scared. Gregory, however, was still angry, though a flicker of confusion appeared in his eyes. He had never seen his daughter like this. Defiant, honest, human. It made him uncomfortable, but also, secretly, it made him pause. For the first time, he saw that wealth, power, and status couldn't protect her from life's pain. Lila took a deep breath and faced her father fully. I need to learn to be me, Dad. Not your perfect image, not the face the world expects. I need to live, feel, and grow, and Marcus, he's helping me do that. I don't care about your anger. I care about being real. I care about being alive inside. Gregory stared at her, silent. The office felt heavier, but Lila felt lighter than she had in years. She had faced the storm, and even though her father's wrath still loomed, she had found her own voice. Marcus nodded at her quietly, a small gesture of encouragement. You've already started, Lila. The rest is yours. And in that janitor's closet, surrounded by the weight of authority, fear, and anger, a CEO's daughter realized that true courage was not wealth or influence. It was honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to face the truth, no matter who disagreed. For the first time, Lila felt a power stronger than fear, her own voice. The next morning, the office buzzed with whispers. Employees exchanged curious glances, wondering about the tension they had felt the night before. Most had no idea what had happened in the quiet janitor's closet, but Lila walked through the halls with a calm confidence that drew attention. Something had changed in her, an inner strength that couldn't be ignored. She made her way to the conference room where the entire staff was gathering for the morning meeting. Gregory Harrison, her father, sat at the head of the table, his expression still stern, though softer than it had been last night. Lila's steps were steady, her head held high. I want to introduce someone to all of you, she said clearly, her voice carrying a confidence that surprised even her. This is Marcus. He is more than you think. He isn't just a janitor. He is someone who has taught me courage, strength, and humanity. A hush fell over the room. Some employees gasped quietly, some exchanged shocked looks, and a few even laughed nervously. Marcus, calm and composed, stepped forward, giving a small, polite nod. His presence, though quiet, seemed to fill the room with an unexpected authority. Lila continued, her voice strong and steady. Most people look at titles, wealth, or appearance and think they define a person's worth. But I've learned something different. Marcus sees people for who they are, not what they have. He helped me when I felt invisible, when I felt broken, when I felt like no one could understand me, and in doing so he reminded me what it means to be human. The room fell silent. No one had ever heard a CEO's daughter speak like this, honest, raw, and emotional. The walls of status and hierarchy seemed to crumble under the weight of her words. Even her father looked taken aback, his eyes betraying a mix of pride and confusion. Marcus has shown me that strength isn't in money, power, or influence, Lila continued, tears forming in her eyes again. True strength is in empathy. True courage is in kindness. True heroism is in helping others, even when no one notices. I'm standing here today because Marcus helped me see that I am not weak. I am alive, I am seen, and I am ready to face the world. Not as a perfect image, but as myself. A few employees wiped their eyes quietly. They had never seen vulnerability and bravery so intertwined. Marcus, who had always been overlooked, now held a presence that could not be ignored. He had shown that anyone, regardless of their position, could make a difference. Gregory Harrison cleared his throat, his voice finally breaking the silence. Lila, you've grown in ways I didn't expect. And Marcus, you've done something remarkable. You've reminded all of us what truly matters. His words were hesitant, but they carried weight. The powerful CEO had learned humility, even if just a little, from the janitor and his daughter. Lila smiled softly, looking at Marcus. "This isn't about titles or money," she said quietly, almost to herself. "It's about people, about listening, caring, and seeing each other for who we really are." From that day forward, things began to change. Employees no longer ignored Marcus. They saw him not just as a janitor, but as a guide, a teacher, and a friend, and Lila, she carried a new confidence, one that didn't come from wealth or privilege, but from truth, empathy, and the courage to ask for help when she needed it most. For the first time in her life, Lila felt whole. She had revealed her struggle, embraced her vulnerability, and found strength in the most unlikely place. And in doing so, she showed everyone around her that real power doesn't come from money. It comes from the heart. After the revelation, the office slowly began to change. The quiet hum of the building now carried a new energy. Employees who once ignored Marcus the janitor began to notice him. They saw his strength, his patience, and the wisdom in his calm eyes. He became more than a worker. They began to respect him not for his title or pay, but for his character and the impact he had on Lila. Lila herself walked with a newfound confidence. The fear that had once weighed on her chest like a heavy stone had loosened its grip. She no longer tried to hide behind the mask of perfection. She smiled more honestly, spoke more openly, and carried herself not as a trophy of wealth, but as a human being who had faced her fears and survived. One afternoon, Lila invited Marcus into her father's office. "I want to start something," she said quietly but with conviction. "Something that can help everyone, not just me." Gregory raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite himself. Marcus stood silently by Lila's side, his expression calm but encouraging. "I want to create a program in this company," Lila continued, "for employees to share their struggles, to find support, and to feel seen. We've been so focused on work, status, and results that we forget about the human side of life. Marcus helped me remember that. He helped me see what courage really is, and I want others to feel that too." Gregory didn't interrupt. Instead, he watched his daughter with a mixture of pride and astonishment. He had never seen her so determined, so alive, so aware of what truly mattered. And in that moment, he realized that leadership wasn't about money or control. It was about listening, caring, and helping others grow. Within weeks, the office started to transform. Employees felt safer sharing their fears, their anxieties, and even their dreams. The company culture shifted from competition and hierarchy to understanding and compassion. Marcus guided them quietly, offering advice, mentoring those who needed encouragement, and showing that strength could come from empathy rather than power. Lila and Marcus worked together closely. She learned lessons not from business books but from life itself. She learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's facing fear with honesty and heart. She learned that asking for help is not weakness but bravery. And she learned that everyone, no matter their title or status, has value and wisdom to share. Sometimes Lila caught herself looking at Marcus, amazed at how much she had grown because of him. The same man who mopped floors, who had been invisible to the world, had become her anchor, her teacher, her friend. He had reminded her that power isn't always visible, and that heroism doesn't come from wealth, it comes from heart. One evening, as the office lights dimmed and most employees had left, Lila and Marcus walked through the empty floor together. She smiled softly. "I never thought I could feel this. Free," she said. "I never thought I could face the world without fear." Marcus nodded. "You've always had the strength. You just needed someone to remind you, and now you're ready to show it to everyone, including yourself." For the first time, Lila didn't feel trapped by her father's expectations, the world's judgment, or her own fears. She felt empowered, alive, and human. And the office, too, felt different, warmer, kinder, more alive, because one janitor had shown a CEO's daughter what it truly meant to be strong. In that quiet but meaningful way, change had begun. Not with orders or money, not with rules or pressure, but with empathy, courage, and the courage to see people for who they really were. The ripple effect had started, and it would touch everyone in the company, and maybe even beyond. And Lila knew deep in her heart that this was just the beginning. Months had passed since the revelation in the janitor's closet. The office was no longer just a place of work. It had become a community where people noticed each other, listened, and cared. Lila walked through the hallways with a quiet confidence. Her laughter was genuine, her smiles real, and her presence no longer masked by fear or anxiety. Marcus, as always, moved quietly among the staff, cleaning floors, organizing supplies, yet everyone now saw him differently. No longer invisible, he was respected, admired, and even quietly loved for the wisdom he shared. He had become a guide, not just for Lila, but for anyone who needed a hand, a listening ear, or a reminder of their own strength. One evening after the office had emptied, Lila found herself standing outside the janitor's closet. She hesitated for a moment, remembering the night she had first walked in, trembling, desperate for help. That night had changed everything, her fears, her perspective, her life. And it had all begun with Marcus. She opened the door and stepped inside. Marcus looked up from where he was organizing cleaning supplies, his calm expression as steady as ever. Lila smiled softly, holding something in her hand. "I wanted to give this to you," she said, extending a small card. "It's just a thank you for everything. For listening, for understanding, for showing me courage and kindness when I needed it most." Marcus took the card, surprised, and looked at her. "You don't need to thank me," he said gently. "You did the work yourself. I only reminded you of the strength you already had." Lila shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "No, Marcus. You did more than remind me. You saved me. You helped me find myself. You saw me when no one else did. And because of that, I can face the world now. I can be me. I can live." Marcus smiled faintly, his usual calm unwavering. "You always had that power, Lila. You just needed someone to believe in you long enough for you to believe in yourself." They stood in silence for a moment, the air thick with unspoken gratitude and understanding. Outside, the city lights shimmered through the office windows, but inside it felt brighter, warmer, and safer, a small sanctuary in a world that often overlooked the quiet, the unseen, and the human. Lila's thoughts drifted back to her father, to the confrontation that had once felt terrifying. She realized how much had changed, not just in herself, but in him and in the entire company. People were talking differently, listening more carefully, and valuing each other in ways they hadn't before. Marcus's influence had quietly reshaped their world, showing them that heroism could come in the simplest, most unexpected forms. "I don't know how to ever repay you," Lila whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Marcus shook his head. "You don't need to. The real reward is seeing you live, seeing you shine. That's enough." Lila looked at him, gratitude and admiration flooding her heart. She had begged for help that night, scared and desperate, and in return she had found wisdom, courage, and humanity. Marcus had changed her life, and in doing so, he had reminded everyone that real strength isn't about money, power, or status. It's about heart, kindness, and the courage to care for others. As she turned to leave, Lila paused at the doorway, glancing back. Marcus nodded at her, a quiet acknowledgement of the journey they had shared. She stepped out into the hall feeling lighter, freer, and truly alive for the first time, and in that moment, the lesson was clear, not just for Lila, not just for the office, but for everyone who ever doubted what mattered in life. Sometimes the most powerful people are the ones who are unseen, unheard, and unassuming. Sometimes courage comes quietly, in a janitor's steady hands, a listening heart, and a belief in humanity when the world has forgotten it. The CEO's daughter had asked for help, and what she revealed, what she learned, and what she carried forward, left everyone who witnessed it, and everyone who heard the story, truly speechless.